Hello, my name is Juan Tavares. Today, right now, I'm gonna be doing the final project for final exam for Java, so CSCI 3326 for the class of Java, and in which we're supposed to be going over OP concepts and showing our learning about those concepts. Today I want to create something more interactive rather than just reading slides or just presenting my project and demoing, which is I think it's kind of like boring. I want to create something interactive, so while I go through the slides and giving definitions of like certain pieces of what OP means or what are the OP parts, I'm gonna be also showing while I create the code. I already have the idea and everything, but I just wanna I see if it's more of a visual, it's gonna help more and easier to understand rather than just reading off the PowerPoint slides and showing the code, which sometimes can be like you see the code and they're like showing that it might be kind of off, or how do they get the information, or is that even right? No, I think this is gonna be a more fun interactive way to learn it. So to begin with, OP in Java, what does that mean? What does that even stand for? So OP stands for Object Oriented Programming, and this basically just let us interact with Java. So you need to learn this in order to create working methods and variables, and it's like a key concept to if you want to start coding in Java. So the first one we're gonna go over is gonna be class. So the definition for class is giving us a user-defined blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. I like to think of it as class is gonna be our skeleton or mold. So whenever we're gonna create an object of that certain class, we already have our predefined mold or skeleton which we need to fill out in order to create a certain object. So my idea, I already created my project. It's like gonna be a university. We already have my main class. It's gonna have to a university class, which is gonna uh relate to the members. So I want to create a member class. So that's how you create a class. Right click on the folder, class member, and name it. And it's gonna be a skeleton, right? So if you're a member of the university, obviously you need to have a name. So we're gonna now to be putting like the construction blocks in order to whenever we want to create an object of this member class, we just need to fill out those blocks in to finish off our objects. And also we want to know your age, so int age. And also let's know your gender for sure, so string to know if you're a woman or man, so a string. So that's a class. We already have our blueprint, our prototype, or like like to call it skeleton, to keep walking forward. So the next one, it's gonna be constructor. So the definition for constructor is a special method used for initializing new objects. So a method to initialize new objects, it's defined under the class. So this method has to have the same name as the class. So the name of the class is gonna be member. So our constructor is also needs to be called member. And in this case, it's gonna take some parameters. So might as well to be for facilitate our life and make it easier to whenever we wanna define a new object, a new member object. So it's gonna take a string n, which is gonna be a name given, and also the age as well, so int x, and finally the gender. So what this function, as it said, initializing new objects. So we wanna initialize our member object. So our name given by the function is gonna be equal to the n in this case. Our age is gonna be x, and finally gender is gonna be g. So whenever we call a constructor member, it's gonna create a new object using these parameters in this order. You'll be hearing object this, object that, but what is actually an object? So An object is a basic unit of OP and represents the real life identities. With an object, you can interact with using methods, and also objects have states, behaviors, and identities. So it's like your thing. That's how I like to like call it. Like you have a member, so we want to create a member thing, like an actual thing. So in order to do that, you need to do it on main. So first of all, what do we want to create? A member. So we have to specify it's gonna be a member, and let's call it first member. So it's gonna be our first member. And to do so, you need to use the constructor as we talked about previously. So new, and then the function, our constructor function member, which as we said is gonna take a string age, and a string. So let's fill out the blanks. So I want to create a new member, and the first string, as we said, is gonna be the name. So it's gonna be me. I'm gonna call Juan. 19 years, and gender male. There you go. By doing so, I created my first object. It's the name for my first object is gonna be first member. Using my constructor, I created my first member, which has a name, an age, and a gender. So object. Later on, I'm gonna create some functions to interact with it, but that's gonna be shown on the second part because I don't want this video to be too long, but I also want it to be interactive. So rather than having previously created code, I'll just update you next on the second video. I'll update you with whatever functions I created to interact with my object. So a member field. A member field is a variable that belongs to the class. That's easy to show. So what's a variable that belongs to the class? So we have a member class. What's the variable? So we have our name variable, our age variable, and a gender variable. These are variables that only belong to the class. And yeah, so easy to understand, not many complex, and also almost hand in hand with member field, it's member method. So methods can take values and parameters and return values as a result. So these are methods that only belong to the class, and aside from the constructor, we want to create a new method. What if I want to see what's on my object? So we're gonna create a new function, a new member function. So void display. We're gonna create a display function, which is gonna print to the screen every single field. So system that out that print ln, and we want to print name, and obviously the name, and then I'm just gonna copy paste for the sake of time all of this 3 times to display each time so instead of name, it's gonna be now age, and we're gonna put age here, and also want to display the gender, and here gender. So as previously, method can take values. In this case, we're not gonna do I'll do an example taking a value, but I'll do it later for the sake of time. And we expect it to display that. So we already have our object here. So if we call first member that display, oops, typo, there you go, and we run it, it's gonna create, and then it's gonna use the function to display. So it's displaying my name, my age, and the gender using the this function, a member function. Let's move on. So inheritance. Inheritance is a mechanism in which one object acquires all the properties of behaviors of a parent object. The idea behind inheritance is that you can create new classes that are built upon existing classes. That's the key, building classes upon existing classes. So I already have my member class. I'm gonna call it super class. I have my super class, my super member class, but I wanna expand more. So I just don't want it to be members. What if I want to know if it's a student or if it's a staff members? So to do that, I'm gonna create another class, and this is gonna be student. There it is.